Alright guys, so we're back with a brand new video. So in this video, we're just going to follow up with the last part 3 Nest.js video. Basically, we have a couple things that we need to get done before we continue with actually the rest of the application. So it's important that we pick these things up before we, make another video and just, go back and forth and doing all these things. Anyways, I've written all these things down. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to redirect the user to the actual dashboard. So basically, once we click on the actual authorize button, whenever we are trying to log in, Discord's going to hit this API /auth/redirect endpoint, and currently it only gives us a 200 response, which is great. But we need to actually redirect this to the actual front-end application, so that way the front-end application has the cookie, so we can use that cookie later on from the front end to make authenticated requests. So this is very simple. You just do res.redirect, and then you pass in the actual URL. So localhost 3000/dashboard. I'm gonna hard code this for now. We'll leave it like this. Okay, but obviously when it comes to production, you'd want to change this to the actual production URL, so whatever your domain name is /dashboard. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is we need to update the GraphQL get user schema. So the reason why we need to do this is if we go back to index.ts or index.graphql, you can see that we only had 4 properties, but we need the guild itself. And the reason why guild is important is because, well, we need to get all the guilds that the user is in. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go and do guilds, and we're basically going to just say that, okay, this is going to resolve into a list of guilds. That's what these brackets denote, that it's a list or an array. And then in between the brackets, we have the actual type. So we're going to need to create a guild type. Now for the guild type, I already have it set up already, so I'm going to just copy and paste it. But it's pretty straightforward. Let me just grab it real quick. I have all of the properties, and these are properties that come from the Discord API itself. So we have the guild ID, the guild name, the icon, description, banner, and then the owner _ID. So if you guys are not familiar with the GraphQL type system, I have a video that kind of talks a little bit about the type system. And it talks about pretty much the syntax of GraphQL. So go ahead and check that out. I'll leave a link in the description. But pretty much we have these are the field names on the left. It literally looks like JSON. And then on the right we have the data type. Well, not JSON, but it looks like for example, if you are familiar with TypeScript, it literally looks like an interface, right? The exclamation mark means that this field itself is non-nullable. Okay, which means that it needs to actually have a value. Otherwise, it will throw an error. Alright, so we're also missing a roles property, and this is basically going to resolve an array of roles. So we'll need to create the role type, and then we're going to go ahead and just copy and paste this. And you can see we have the ID, name, permissions, position, and then the color. And like I said, these are properties that come from the Discord API. If you want to learn more about each field, you can just go to the documentation on discord.com, and you can read up about each data type, like the guild role, and you can understand what these fields are. Okay, but that's going to be pretty much it for updating our index.graphql file. Like I said, we have 4 fields currently. Well, before we had only 4 fields. Now we have 5. Okay, and basically every single time we have a field in our type, these are basically backed by resolver functions. Now, if the actual field itself is a scalar type, then the execution will just end there. But if we actually have like an object type, for example, this guild, it's going to need to call its own resolver function to get all of the data for this guild. And I'm going to show you guys how to handle that. Okay, so let's just cross these 2 things out. We're done with those, and we're done with the GraphQL types. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to resolve the GraphQL guilds field. So let me show you exactly what I mean. So let's go into our GraphQL playground, and if we click on schema, you'll see that it has not updated for some reason. Oh, let me actually just restart everything. There we go. Okay, so you can see that we have guilds. Perfect. So if I click play, it should just give us the Discord ID. Now if I type guilds and if I ask for the ID, you can see it just gives us null, and that's because we don't have a resolver for this guild, so we're gonna have to implement that. And that's gonna be fairly simple. So you'll note that in the resolvers folder in user.resolver.ts, we only created a get user query. Okay, but we need to also create a resolve field for the actual guild itself. And what we need to do is we basically need to say resolve field, just like that. And we're going to say async guilds. And then we're going to use the parent decorator. And like I said, these are being imported up here. We have the parent and then the resolve field being imported from the Nest.js GraphQL library. And the parent is going to be user. Okay. And I'm going to just, for now, console log user. Or actually, I'll just say guilds resolve field, just for now. And you guys will see what's going to happen. So when I go back to the GraphQL API, let me actually just move this down a little bit. Let me zoom in there. You see how it says guilds resolve field? This is because of the guilds itself, the guild field over here. If I get rid of this, let me see what happens. Yeah, you can see that it doesn't even call that function itself because we're not asking for guilds, which is great because if we're not asking for guilds, it's not going to bother calling this function. Okay, but yeah, so hopefully that makes sense. And if you want to read more about resolvers, you can actually read over here. So it says over here what I pretty much already said already. If a field produces a scalar value like a string or number, so pretty much like over here, we have Discord ID, username, avatar, and discriminator. These are all scalar values, okay? So if it does, then the execution will complete right there. However, if a field produces an object value, right, like our guild, which is an object, then what it will do is it will pretty much, let's see what it says over here. The query will contain another selection of fields which apply to the object, which is pretty much going to basically get all of these fields for us. And then if we want to, we can actually also get the roles as well. Okay, but we're actually not going to handle the roles. We're actually going to save that for a different scenario. But like so, you can read more about this on the GraphQL, the official GraphQL.org website. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to fetch the guild, but before we do that, we need the actual access and refresh token. So if you're not familiar with what access and refresh tokens are, they're pretty much used for every single OAuth tool. Most OAuth 2 strategies will pretty much give you an access and refresh token, and you can choose to use it if you want to actually, interact with the API on behalf of the user. So for example, when we authenticate with Discord will give us an access and refresh token. The access token is used to make OAuth 2 requests. So if you want to get the user's guilds, if you want to, I think you can do a bunch of other stuff too, like join guilds for the user and whatnot. You can read more about it on the Discord API, the Discord documentation. But the access token allows us to make authorized requests on behalf of the user. And the refresh token allows us to refresh the access token because the access token will expire at some point. Okay, I think access tokens for Discord expire after, I'm not sure how long it is. I know access tokens are usually short-lived. They're usually like a week, depending on how it's implemented. And then refresh tokens usually are longer. I can't remember how long it is. I'm pretty sure it's 1 week though for the access tokens. And then for the refresh tokens for Discord, it's 6 months. You guys can, again, like I said, you guys can reference the documentation to clarify. But that's pretty much just the gist of it. So how we're going to handle saving the user's access and refresh tokens is pretty simple. For now, what I'm going to do is I am going to actually just manually save it to the database. I'm not going to bother encrypting it, but you guys should 100% encrypt the access and refresh token, because if an attacker gets access to your database, well, they'll be able to see a bunch of users' access and refresh tokens. And you can really consider those things as sensitive, and you should definitely encrypt those. There's actually libraries that make it very easy to encrypt and decrypt, so I highly recommend you look into that. But just for this tutorial, just for now, I don't want to spend too much time on this. We're going to go ahead and just save it manually. Okay? But like I said, in an actual real application, you'd want to make sure you encrypt these things. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a column called access token. And then another column called refresh token. And that's literally all it's going to look like. Okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and give this a, what's going on over here? Oh, there we go. So we're going to give it a name. And I'm just going to, I personally prefer having my fields on MySQL as snake case. Okay, this is a nice thing about TypeORM is that you can actually map the actual MySQL column to an actual object property. So whenever we reference the user access token, we do user.access token like this, rather than access underscore token, which is what I like about ORMs in general. But yeah, for MySQL though, I personally prefer using snake case for my column column names. Okay, so that's going to be pretty much it for the user.ts. So what's next? What's next is we need to actually also close this out, and what we're going to do is we're going to go into Discord strategy. So one thing that I should also note is that you want to also make sure that your MySQL, well, your TypeORM configuration has synchronized to true. So every single time you make an update to, let's say for example, if you add a column or if you delete a column, TypeORM will automatically synchronize all those updates for you. So let me actually just log into my database real quick. And if I can remember correctly, show databases. Alright, I think this is the right one. Yeah, I think this should be the right one. Discord dashboard DB. It should be the right one, and it is. Yes, this is the correct database. Perfect. So you can see over here now I have access token and refresh token. If I were to get rid of those fields, so let me do that. If I were to just get rid of them. Okay, let's check. And again, and you can see that it's gone, which is nice about TypeORM. I like it a lot. Okay, so now we're going to go into Discord strategy.ts, and we need to go ahead and save the access token and the refresh token. So this is going to be pretty straightforward. So all we're going to do is we're basically going to go ahead and pass in the access token and the refresh token. So let me see. Let me go into this over here. And let me go into this user details type. So I can't honestly remember when I created these things. I actually made the whole the Nest.js tutorial a long time ago, like a month ago. So it's been a while, so I'm kind of just remembering what I did. But we're gonna just add some two fields, access token and then refresh token. So now for this user details type, we're going to need to also pass this in as well. So access token, refresh token. There we go. And it's going to be passed into this function over here. Okay. So once we do that, all we're going to do is inside of the actual function over here, all we need to do is we just need to check to see if the user exists. So if the user exists, then we're going to update the user with the new access token and refresh token. If the user does not exist, we're just going to create a new user, and that's pretty much going to be done over here. So literally all we need to do is we say, okay, if user, we're going to get rid of this. We're going to say await this dot user. Let's see, what do I want to do? I'm trying to remember. Let's see, I don't think in this video or in this tutorial series I actually had a user service, which sucks. I wish I did create one. So this is going to suck a little bit. Let's see, what am I doing over here? User repo. Well, you know what? Actually, I'm just gonna do this dot user repo. I can actually just do this dot update. And what I'll do is I will pass in the Discord ID. So we're gonna basically find it by Discord ID, and then all we're gonna do is we're gonna just pass in the stuff that we want to update the user for. And the only thing that we really want to update is the refresh token and access token. So we don't really care about, I mean, we can actually update everything else as well. The Discord ID will never change, though the discriminator, the username, the avatar could actually change. So what I'll do is I'll actually just do this. I will just pass in details. And I think that should do the trick. Just console log updated. And yeah, that should pretty much be it. We just return the user. So yeah, that should pretty much be all we need to do. So we can go and try it out just to make sure it works. So you can see right now, if I do select from users, you can see I only have one field, and access token, refresh token, those are empty. They are empty. So let's go ahead and go into, let's log in. Let's authorize, hopefully everything goes well. Seems like there might be a problem. So it says updated. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, it's working fine. It's just trying to redirect. That's okay. We don't have our React app running. That's fine. It's working. Just to verify, we can select from users, and you'll see my access token and refresh token. That's fine. This is a throwaway account, and I can always just revoke it, so it doesn't really matter. But like I said, you guys should 100% encrypt your actual access token and refresh token. Okay? So now what's next is we just go inside our, let's close out auth.service.ts. Let's close out Discord strategy, and we can go over here. And now I should just be able to just do user.accessToken. So let me actually just console log that real quick just to make sure. Let me just console log user. And let's go ahead and hit this. Let's ask for guilds. It's going to say no, that's fine. And you can see that we have our user. Okay, that's great. So we have it saved. That's awesome. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're basically going to go ahead and make an API call to the Discord API. So how do we do that? Well, we basically need to get the actual Discord API URL, and we're basically going to just create a Discord service, and we're just going to have that service have a bunch of functions that we can call that's going to give us the data that we want. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to go into, let me see if I can do this. Let's go into dashboard, nest.js back in GitHub. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do nest G for generate. We're going to generate a new module, and we're going to call this Discord. And this module is basically just going to have a Discord service. That's really all it's going to be for. So you'll see over here we have Discord module.ts, and we basically just want to create a service. So we're going to do nest G service Discord, and I'll call this, let's see. Hopefully I did this correctly. Did I do that correctly? Okay, no, that's definitely not right. Let me just delete that. Let me just delete this. Let's see, nest G service. I can't remember. I think this is how I can do it. Yeah, that's fine. There we go. Perfect. All right, so we have the Discord module.ts, Discord service.spec, that's the test file, and then we have the service.ts file. Okay, so you can see whenever we use the Nest.js CLI tool, it'll auto-update the file for us, so it'll provide it for us. So you need to make sure you have Discord service as a provider. Okay, But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create a new file called discord.ts. And this is just going to be an interface, because remember, we want to program to the interface rather than the implementation. And how we do that is we basically first create an interface, and we can call this whatever you want. I'm going to call this Discord provider. And we're going to just create a couple functions. So we'll do fetch guilds. It's going to take in an access token. And for now, I'll let the return type to be implicitly any, just for now. And then we'll create another function called fetch guild roles, which we're not going to really do anything with it at the moment, because right now we're only trying to worry about fetch guilds. But don't worry about this method right now. This is just what I had before, so I'm just going to put that there. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to leave it like this for now. And I'm going to go into, let's see, discord.service.ts. And what we want to do is we want to implement this interface. So implements Discord provider. And then whenever we implement an interface, we need to we need to implement all of its methods. So I should be able to just quick fix this. There you go. That's fine. That's a short way to just kind of cheat a little bit. All right. So let's go ahead and do this. We need to implement this fetch guilds function. So this is basically going to call the Discord API, give us back whatever it is that we want, which is the guilds. All right, so to actually make HTTP requests, well, you can do a couple ways. You can either install Axios, but with Nest.js, it actually comes with an HTTP module, which, if I remember correctly, it is actually a wrapper around Axios, and it also provides observables with RxJS as well, which is really cool. So what we're going to do is we're just going to import the HTTP module, and I'll do that right over here. And we're inside app.module.ts. Okay, so that's the root module. So we're going to import HTTP module just like that, and you can see up here it gets imported up there, okay, from a Nest.js common. So now that we have imported the HTTP module, what we can do is inside our service, we can implement a constructor, and we can use dependency injection to inject the HTTP service. This itself is a class, and we can just say private read only, give it a name. That's the name of our HTTP service variable, and the type is just going to be HTTP service. So now what I can do is, let me just get rid of this. I can simply do something like this now. This.htp service, and you can see it literally is just a wrapper around Axios. We have delete, get, head, patch, post, put, request. Okay, so I can do something like get. I can pass in the URL. So as of the time that we're recording this video, January 14, 2021, the latest version is version 8. But if you're watching this, somewhere down the line where the API is updated, just change the version, okay? So we're going to do /users @me guilds. So this will give us all the guilds. And what we want to do is we want to pass in headers. And this is literally kind of like similar to how you would do it with just regular Axios or fetch. You want to pass in an authorization. And for this authorization token, the type is a bearer token. If you're making a request that would give you data from like the bot itself, like the scope of bot, you would use the bot token. So for example, if you wanted to get all of the guild roles, you would use the bot token. Okay, if you wanted to get all of the guild channels, you would use the bot token. But because we're only getting stuff on behalf of the user doesn't have access to. The user doesn't have any information about the roles, the channels, etc. That's all for the bot. For this one, we need to use the bearer token, which is the access token. So we're going to prefix it with bearer. Okay, but when it comes to other requests, we might use the bot token itself. And I'll show you guys how to handle that. Okay, so we pass in this itself. And what this returns is it actually returns an observable. Now, if you're not familiar with observables, they can be a little bit annoying to deal with at first, but I'll try my best to explain how everything works. Okay, but basically with observables, you can subscribe to an observable, and you can think of an observable like a data stream. Okay, it's going to process all of the data that's fetched from the API or wherever the data source is, and it does so one by one. So it doesn't do it all at once, it does it one by one. So what we can do is we can actually just subscribe to this, and this will pretty much just give us the Axios response. If you really don't want to, deal with it the observable way, you can actually just call toPromise, and it'll just work the same way. But I highly recommend you at least try using observables at some point. Try doing it the RxJS way, because it is pretty powerful depending on what you do. They have a lot of other functions that you can use, like pipe, where you can pretty much pipe the observable and you can transform the response however you want. And then when we actually get the data, we can subscribe to this observable and do whatever we want with it. But what I'm going to do is I'm just simply going to just do this. I'm just going to return this, and we're going to call this function right now inside of here. I'll show you. We should just be able to do this .Discord service. We actually need to inject Discord service into here. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go to Discord module. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to say, instead of doing this, we're going to do provide Discord service. That's the token. Use class Discord service. And this is the actual class that we're going to use. And because we're doing it this way, we also need to export this as well. Yeah, that's fine. So provide Discord service, use class Discord service. So we should not get any errors. And okay, so it's giving us an HTTP service error. That's fine. We just go over here, imports HTTP service. There we go. Now why is it saying? Oh wait, sorry, not HTTP service, HTTP module. Sorry about that. Okay, there we go. That should fix that error. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, great. So now what I can do is I can go inside user.resolver.ts, and I can actually just inject the Discord service like this. Okay, using the token private read-only Discord service, and we want to type annotate this with the interface and not the actual Discord service class. Okay, so for example, we don't want to type annotate this as Discord service. The reason why is because you might implement some function inside this Discord service class that you'll be able to call directly, and you're pretty much going to be breaking the whole programming to interface. You want to program to the interface, but you also want to make sure you are specifying the type for the interface. Because what if you actually implement some function that doesn't belong to the Discord provider interface? You'd be programming to the implementation. Okay, so make sure we do Discord provider instead. So if I were to try to reference some, let's say for example, if I created some method, some method, right? Let me just change that. If I try to do this Discord service some method, you see that doesn't work. But if I were to do Discord service, you'll see that it actually works. Okay, this would be an example of programming to implementation rather than the interface, because this is a concrete method that we implement ourselves in the actual class, and you don't want to do that. Okay, I mean you could, there's nothing stopping you, but like I said, you wanna pretty much adapt to these patterns. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and just do this Discord service fetch guilds. Yep, and then we'll do user.access token, and then we can just return this. So we don't even need to subscribe to the observable at all. Nest.js will handle that underneath the hood for us. Okay, so right now if I actually try to query this fetch guilds, it's actually gonna give us an error. So you can see over here, it's saying that it's not iterable, so something is likely wrong with the way we handle this. So let me actually do a couple things. I'm going to go ahead and just subscribe to this observable. Oh wait, you know what we need to do? We should actually do this. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go into Discord TS, and I'm going to type annotate this as observable Axios response. Let's see what's going on over here. So we actually need to install Axios and RxJS. I'm not sure what's going on here. Yeah, we need to install Axios response. That's fine. Don't worry about that for now. So let me go ahead real quick and just do yarn add Axios. There we go. We have the type. There we go. Okay, great. So, and this is coming from GraphQL. Yep, that's perfect. That's fine. Okay, great. So now we have a type annotated. Let's go back to here. And it seems like it's working just fine. So in user.resolver, I should just be able to subscribe. And you can see that the type is an Axios response of guild arrays, or an array of guilds. Alright, so let me just console log this real quick. And let me just get rid of that return. And let me restart the server. Let's see. Let's go over this. The inferred type of fetch fields cannot be named without reference. Alright, I think we might need to manually add the actual, let's see. Alright, hopefully that fixes that. Okay, perfect. Okay, there we go. So you can see over here now, you can see all of the guilds over here. Perfect. That's great. It works exactly how we expected. So that's coming from the observable. When we subscribe, you can see I have all the servers right over here. Okay, that's fine. And this is the other stuff. But what we want to do is we just simply want to return it to GraphQL. So let me see if I can just try this again. When I return. Okay, so it's giving us an error. That's fine. I think the reason why is because it's actually returning the entire response rather than the actual guild. So what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and do this. Pipe. And we're going to call map. So we're going to need to import an RxJS operator. So we'll import map from RxJS operators, and we're going to call this map function, and this works very similar to array.map, but what we're going to do is we're going to map the response, and we just want to do response.data. Yeah, response.data. That should be enough. So that will return back to here. Okay, that's fine, great. Let's try it again. Perfect. Alright, so yeah, pretty much the map works the same way as array.map. You can read over here. It pretty much applies a given project function to each value emitted by the source. Okay, but all we're really doing here is we're just trying to get the response.data. Okay, because in reality we only have like one entity, which is the Axios response. We only care about the data itself, so we'll just call .pipe map, and .pipe will also return an observable, which if we want to, we can subscribe to it. We can call .toPromise, whatever it is that we want to do. But all we're going to do is we're just going to return that call, and underneath the hood in SJS, we'll pretty much map that observable to an actual response, like this. So now I can actually just get all of the names right over here. I can get the icon. Okay, there we go. You can see it's null over here. And that's pretty much it. So we've pretty much done all things that I said we need to do. So just to recap, what we've done so far with all the fetching was we pretty much had to set up this fetch guilds function. And this fetch guilds function takes in an access token, and it returns an observable. Now, like I said, if you're not really too familiar with observables, it might be very confusing. But you can think of observables as a way where we can subscribe to an observable and we can get some data source. Okay, that's really all it is. Maybe I'll do a video on that some other time. But yeah, all we're doing with this observable is we're returning an HTTP call. We are calling .map to get us the data. Okay, because before it was returning the entire response, we only care about the data. And then we return it in the resolve field, or this guilds function over here. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So now you can see that it gives us everything that we want. It gives us data, it gives us get user, and there we go. That's literally all it is. So yeah, so pretty much now that we actually have our GraphQL query to get our guilds, all we really need to do on the front end is we just need to modify our GraphQL schema a little bit, and then we can just simply call this GraphQL endpoint with the get user query, and we should be able to get all of the guilds. So we can actually load up all of the icons on the sidebar that we implemented on the front end, and we can also modify whichever guild that we want to edit. So that's gonna be pretty much it for this video. Okay, I know we did a lot. Hopefully this answered a lot of your guys' questions, and I will see you guys in my next video. Peace out.